Hello, hello, hello. It's me again, and we're back in Forge Land because, frankly, I'll have to think of something more exciting to do with micropros now that we've gone through basics. I think I'll probably just play some random decks and pretend that I'm capable of running a gauntlet on this computer, or I might see if I can get that working on another system. Anyway, yes, we're back in Forge Land. I will draw attention briefly at the start of this video to the fact that we are using a different theme, as I had promised. We are not using the usual. Usually, the theme that I use here is called Origins. It's based off the set Magic Origins, which was kind of a core set, but it wasn't a core set. And it's a very clean and legible theme that I've been using throughout the videos here, as you can tell. Yeah, see? High contrast visibility. What I'm using here now, is it this one? Yes, this should be the very first theme that Forge launched with, and it's a very appropriate choice for this video because this video is focusing on my own paper, my own legacy deck that I own a paper version of in this exact format, which focuses on the mechanic of banding, which is a mechanic that has not been printed as a keyword since 1996 for some particularly good reasons that we'll discover as we go through this deck. In fact, I'll start off right now, in post at least, by editing in a recording of myself reading aloud the fully officially defined definition of how banding works. And with that, let's get back to the actual matter at hand. In a more discernible way of explaining that, how banding works is, well, it's a creature-based ability. It's very much tied to the nature of our creatures on our board. And the idea is that we can take a bunch of small little, white guys, white weenies that we have, as most decks of this time would have had anyway when they were running mono white. And instead of just having a bunch of ones scattered around that, get through by a sheer size advantage or number advantage, I guess, the idea is that, we can have them stick together and absorb damage for each other. And, banding applies differently to the blocking and attacking phases of your respective turn. So, let's take a look here. We have some. I'll just go through this non-standard, just as I improv half this shit anyways. Who cares? We have some creatures here that just say have banding here. There's an older version of printing it, which is bands, which is very funny because that's what it implies, that it has the ability to produce music in a commercial fashion. No, yes. So you have these creatures with banding, and creatures with banding can attack in a band. So when we're declaring our attack, we can, put together creatures into bands, which can consist of as many creatures with banding as we like, and up to one creature without banding. Obviously now, a single band, the creatures inside a band still count as individual creatures themselves, so they can still be individually targeted by spells or abilities, etc. However, the band has to be blocked as one by the opponent, otherwise it goes through. Which, once that happens, once the band is blocked, we have the ability to assign damage to the individual members of the band, which means that, for example, let's say we're having 4 of these Banalish heroes attack in a band together, and they're blocked by a 3/3, and normally my opponent would be the one who gets to decide how the damage is assigned, and logically they would distribute 3 points of damage across 3 of my heroes, and they would all die. But because this is a band, I get to decide how those 3 damage points are distributed, and I would, obviously the most logical play would be to put all 3 damage points on a single hero, and then that hero dies, the blocking creature dies, and we're all good. When you block, I should mention, yes, some clarification here, yes. Bands do not share, creatures in a band do not share abilities. They do not lose their abilities either, but obviously, for example, evasive abilities, so if I have like a band with 3 non-flyers and 1 flying creature, that band does not functionally have flying. That band can be blocked by creatures without flying, even if one of the creatures would normally not be able to, be blocked by the other creature. That would not be a legal play. During blocking, there is basically a similar process. When we block with multiple creatures and one of them happens to have banding, we are allowed to distribute damage from the attacking creature, from the blocked creature, as we wish. That's basically it. And this deck just sort of finds ways to build strategies around that flexibility and, do some quirky things to hopefully extract a victory out of the whole thing. Legacy is a very fast format. It's a very spell-based format, non-permanent based format. It's a very prickish format. And I like to play this deck because it confuses the hell out of people, it bothers geeks, and it's a fun little mechanic that has been printed in over 20, almost 25 years now. And it's totally my thing, obviously, because I love anachronisms, as you should know by now. So let's start going through this. I'm going to cut this off at the 10-minute mark, so it's not like too difficult to render, I don't know. Or maybe like 15. Let's just keep going and not. Oh my gosh, no non-basic lands. What do I talk about? Let's look at these planes. Look at how beautiful this is. I fucking love Mirage. I need to just do a Mirage sealed draft or some sealed thing or something because I fucking love Mirage. It's beautiful. Okay, so no non-basic lands. Well, what does that leave us with? Whole lot of creatures, obviously, because we need those, but I'm going to look at the support spells first. Let's see, what do we have in here? Now, that's a creature, this is, these are mostly support spells that we get here that are pretty common in white magic as a whole, and that are pretty common in most creature-based white decks as well. Here we have Always Watching from the much maligned, on this channel at least, Shadows over Innistrad, which says in non-token creatures, there is one exception to that rule. Non-token creatures we control get +1/+1 and have vigilance, which means they do not need to be tapped to attack. Now, this is, it's not a strictly better version of, what's it called? This is the problem with not playing Magic for 2 years. You forget, like, all the things you used to have to memorize. You just kind of... Yes. That is... No, it's not that one. Shit. Okay, pretend this is a white spell, right? Pretend this is a white spell, because there is one. I promise you there is one. What's it called? Fuck me. Is it... Yes. Okay, here it is. We found it. It is... Always Watching is, in theory, a strictly better version of this card. You will notice this one does not grant vigilance. However, this one does affect token creatures. I decided the trade-off is fair because we only have one card here that generates token creatures. Whereas that here, which functionally is, itself a creature card here. Errand of Duty for 1 colorless, 1 white. Let's just put a 1/1 white knight token with banding into play. I wasn't really too concerned, considering you can only make 2 of those. I wasn't too concerned about losing there. Obviously, if you do have a token-based deck, and they're not uncommon in white, then obviously Glorious Anthem will be your go-to instead of this. But we don't, so fuck that. Again, there's a few things here to make up for the fact that not all the most, obviously the most important creatures in this deck are more recent ones with, actual power levels matching the game and the metagame, and those do not have banding. So I have a couple things in here that let me grant banding either temporarily or permanently to things that do not have banding. This is one of them. For just 2 colorless, we can grant a creature. Yeah, you can read. You can read, can't you? You can read cards by now. I bet you can. That's from Ice Age. I have 3 of those. I always get like 2 of them out in the field, and I never have to use them. But there they are. They're important, probably. And yeah, and another one example of this. 3 of these. Cooperation here. This is just an aura that gives the enchanted creature banding. Pretty simple stuff, right? Then we have some basic removal spells, obviously, as one should in white. Here, obviously, the classic disenchant. Target enchantment or artifact must be Must be discarded. What is this? Fucking Pokemon? that was a clever joke about Pokemon trading card game, which I would really like to play someday. Oh my gosh, I remember a certain member of this community in our brain system here used to be very interested in that thing, so I don't know, maybe I could talk to somebody, but gosh, imagine if we did a playing Pokemon deck series on this channel. That would just be crazy. Okay, do I have anything else here? Not much in the way of, you know, traditional... Wait a minute. This isn't right. Wait a minute. Hang on. Wait. What? I definitely have Swords to Plowshares in this deck. Hang on. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do something very crazy here, because this is bullshit, because I know for a fact... Hang on. This deck is not up to date. I'm realizing. Hold on. Because I know I have better removal spells than that. Hang on. Ignore that. Jesus Christ. Okay. I have 2 copies of this. Swords to Plowshares, very much a classic, just in the same class as Disenchant. As you can see, 1 white mana, exile target creature, and the controller gains life equal to its power. I'm sure I've talked about this before. I must have. I know I did. I don't remember what deck it was in, but I know I have this in somewhere else. I have it in basically every white deck that I, can't afford to have it in. Otherwise, what else is there that's not a creature here? Nothing. Nope, that's it. So, we're just left with creatures, huh? Okay, you know what? In that case, I'll cut here so that the laptop doesn't get overwhelmed, performing this arduous task. And I'll see you in precisely 0 seconds with the next segment. Any creatures with banding and up to 1 without can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group. If any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any of the creatures it's being blocked by or is blocking. And there's a whole 5 paragraphs from the comprehensive rules here that I won't bother to read out, but it's a bit of a mess. Okay, here we are. Let's go through this as quickly as I can before something terrible happens. I'll start with the bread and butter of this deck. There are 2 identical creatures. The Sheldoran Warrior, 1/1 banding for 1 wet mana, and the Banalish Hero from the very first alpha printing era of Magic, which is the exact same thing you'll see, except with much more boring art. Other 1-drops we have here actually start to demonstrate the utility of this deck and the way that these little tricks work here. For example, here, Deathblade Elite has the ability Provoke, which means that when it attacks, we can have a target creature that the defending player controls. We can have that creature basically be forced to block it. And in addition, we can also activate an ability for 1 colorless, 1 white, which prevents all combat damage that would be dealt to / by Deathblade Elite, which means I can put this in a band. I can have a creature I want to get fucked and blown off the field, block the band. I can activate the ability of the Deathblade Elite to prevent all damage that would be dealt to / by it. Assign all the damage points of the blocking creature to the Deathblade Elite, that takes no damage, and the other creature gets all the damage from the other members of the band, which, ideally, if I'm playing smart, just kill it. That's smart, isn't it? That's fun. That's something cool we can do that's more interesting than just playing combos all over and over like a fucking level 25 Dark Elf cocksucker World of Warcraft. It's not 2006 anymore, but that is a trauma that I have grown up with, and I will never forget it. Here's Bushy Tenderfoot. When a creature dealt damage by this 1/1 for 1 white mana creature is put into a graveyard this turn, we flip it, and it becomes the fearsome Kenzo the Hard-Hearted, who has Double Strike, 3/4, and Bushido 2. Bushido is a very interesting ability that I like very much, and which unfortunately will never be reprinted because it's called Bushido, which means you can't print it in any set that's not set outside fucking the one plane that's themed after feudal Japan. But it means that this 3/4, when it becomes blocked, or blocks, gets +2/+2 until end of turn, which makes it a 5/6 of Double Strike, which means it deals 10 damage in one hit, which is amazing. So how do we normally we're like, how do you make this 1/1 kill something without getting kill itself? Well, it's stupid. You put it in a band, and you have to kill something and get something else in the band take the damage, and then you get your cool samurai. I have never been able to pull this off because I only have one of this guy in my deck, and somehow I never, but maybe we'll see it. Who knows? It's like a falling star. These aren't creatures. This is, where did we start here? This is I was thinking of showing this off earlier. This is kind of in its own way a utility spell. It used to be an enchantment. I forget what it's called. It's called like Knighthood or something. It does the same thing for the same cost. It gives all your creatures first strike. This one, however, also prevents our opponent's creatures from having / gaining first strike, and is itself a 2/2 body that we can put in any band. And it gets the cool frame for enchantment creatures, which is an extra bonus. So really, there's no reason not to run this. Here for a couple legendaries that help buff our whole armada here of fucking warriors of the pure-hearted. Here's Piana, Nomad Captain, which is a 2/2, and she gives every attacking creature +1/+1 until end of turn when she attacks, which is obviously very nice once you have like 5 or 6 or 7 1/1 guys out there, all in one whole huge group. That's pretty wicked. Here's another neat one. You can read these. These are pretty straightforward effects, obviously. I don't have to do a lot of fancy stuff here with the bands because they kind of just work with themselves. That's the beauty of using a creature-based strategy. But yes, as you can see, every creature blocking this golem gives it +1/+1 until end of turn, which means that if we have a huge enough band that forces our opponent to just dedicate every single creature they have on the field to blocking it, this thing can take advantage of that pretty well. Here's a more modern addition to this that again just kind of explains itself. The Armored Transport, which takes no damage from creatures that block it. Now, normally, of course, that means nothing to us, but what it means to us in our banding strategy is that we can make a band with the transport, and the band gets blocked, we just pour all the damage on this thing, and it doesn't take any damage. Pretty cool, huh? What do we have it for? Oh my gosh, how much do I have left? I'm getting tired. Oh, wow. Okay. Right, this is another extremely important component of our bands here that I tend to want to have out in the field. For 4 mana, 2/3, it's pretty expensive, right? But it has protection for mono-colored, which is like 80%, 90% of all creatures that you will ever encounter on the field. How many, besides the legendaries, how many multicolored creatures are you going to see in the run-of-the-mill deck, And so having a band, having a creature with this protection from mono in a band means we can just, again, like I said, all the damage goes on this guy, and he takes none of it because he has protection from it. Stupid. That's assuming that we don't get blasted out of the skies by turn 3 by our opponent, but I try to avoid that. Oh, this is a cool one. This is a very rare exception. You can see it's a fucking rare, which I don't even know what that means in Fallen Empires. I know there's the card sheets for these early expansions were like ridiculous and not really conforming to modern standards for rarity assignment, but The rare exception to the rule of banding creatures not sharing abilities, the Acacian Skirmishers. There's a whole slew of like Acacian banding creatures, but most of them are pretty sucky. This one's like the best one, honestly. It's a 1/1 for 4 mana, which you're thinking like, holy shit, that's awful. But it has banding, it has first strike, and every creature that bands with it gets first strike until end of turn. Isn't that cool? And I'm getting this uneasy feeling about this deck. I'm getting like, hang on, isn't there? Something's off. Something is very wrong here. I'm trying to look up cards, but the laptop is shitting itself. Pikemen, aren't these banding? Or do they just... Yes. Didn't I have a couple of these in here? I will have to choose. Nope. Well, okay, if you say so. I'll have to go check the paper version after this because I'm getting paranoid. Oh fuck. Otherwise, yeah, just have out here Ace and Crusader here. This one I included myself, most as a tribute to Homelands, my favorite worst set, which has power and toughness equal to 2 plus the number of soldiers and warriors we control. It says heroes here, which means you were obviously meant to run it with the Banalish heroes. But we do have quite a few soldiers and warriors in this deck, as I will show to you now. Look, fuck me, stop doing that. Fuck you, Forge. Soldier, look. Those are all soldiers. Warrior. Those are all warriors. Fuck yeah. So this, well, if I don't really intend to play this one very often, but when I do get it out, it is a very impressive, big, huge thing. And it's from Homelands, which means I can kick people's ass with a set they make fun of for being old and weak and stupid, just like this deck, which is very cathartic. Finally, yes. One little bit of jangly tech here left. Your Urza's Engine for 5 colorless, 1/5 body, trample, and, well, as you can see, has conditional banding activated for 3 colorless, and for an additional 3 colorless mana, every single other creature banded with it gets trampled until end of turn. A similar deal to the skirmishes here, but in this case, you know, once we do have those huge bodies out and we want to stomp over, you know, maybe especially if we're playing against, you know, opponents that would be likely to chump block us with their 1/1s or whatever, this can be quite neat. I think that's pretty much the entire deck that I went over here. Like I said, I'm gonna go check to make sure this isn't like stupidly outdated and bad. But otherwise, yeah, see you in a bit with some gains. So the pikemen are not in the deck. I do have one small correction to make, which is that the card that I removed earlier, Smite, which I'm showing here, is in fact in the deck. Turns out I had, this is a 61 card deck. There is one additional planes in here. And I had removed 2 of the archetypes of courage that are here in this present version of the deck, which I modified accordingly for the gameplay footage, and kept instead Smite in here for some extra creature removal. And as you can see, it's just this very simple instant: destroy target, blocked. I'm recording this separately, so I don't know what the card looks like. You can read it yourself, and yes, thank you. Alright, here we go. Time to playtest some playtesting. This is my second time recording this, not because the laptop did anything funny, but because the first 2 games I had were so boring and just non-illustrative of what's going on here that I just was like, yeah, let's not keep that footage. So now of course, with all that effort, the laptop is starting to stutter and I cannot. There we go. Wow, that was incredible. Let's see. We do have a 1-drop. We do not have anything with banding, so this could potentially be very disastrous to keep. I'm gonna hope that I get something with banding, considering there's 8 1-drops that I can potentially draw. Here we go. Let's do it. Jocelyn, you fucking You bring it. Yeah? There we go. Here comes Bushy Tenderfoot. And he's going to... I don't know. At this stage, he's basically a vanilla 1-1 that I don't have a particularly huge amount of use for, but he is going to deal 1 damage. As he deserves to. Oh boy, here comes something with a very threatening name. It's a marauding bone slasher. What the fuck is that? It's a zombie minotaur. And it's a vanilla creature of a drawback. Okay, zombie deck. Fun. I wanted to build a zombie deck at one time, but those were my youthful days, and Always watching or archetype of courage. Always watching archetype. Always watching archetype. Always. If I have the archetype when I already have always watching in play, then I can use that to, yeah. Because I want to lure that bone slasher out and kill it before it kills me. So since it can't block anyway, we're just gonna play always watching, and we're gonna hit with swing for 2 with Bushy, and that, yeah, that does what it does. No banding yet. This is not very interesting. I'm gonna play the deck. It's just not playing itself, you know, the way it's intended to for illustrative purposes in this video series. But we're gonna keep going. We're gonna persevere. We have some things that can grant banding to creatures, so that's coming up soon. I promise you. Here comes the Zealot with the God Furrow. Holy shit, this is a Minotaur? Is it a Minotaur zombie tribal deck? That's crazy. Look at this. And oh, he figured out that I wanted lure mount. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, these AIs are just getting too smart. I can play either the Skirmisher. No, you know what? I can only play one of those spells anyway, so... I'm gonna give the archetype cooperation so that we can attack with our first band. We're gonna go, yeah, these two guys. Pow, pow. Oh no, what if he blocks at both of them? That'd be stupid. No, he can't, because the bone slasher can't block. Right, yeah. Here we go. And because Bushy Tenderfoot dealt damage to that, it gets transformed. Yes. Oh my gosh. We did it. I actually did it. We called it. If the laptop dies now, I'm gonna fucking piss myself in a very angry manner. It's another Zealot. Planes. Now I'm blanking because I'm so excited. Fuck. If I play the Skirmishers, and then there's no point in playing the Cooperation at this point, so I'm gonna play the Skirmishers. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count no more. What? Okay. No, I don't actually need to band because they both have first strike and they both can kill the Zealot dead if it blocks. So, oh, you're just gonna take 7. Well, that works fine because then I get to finish this game sooner and show you my amazing play. But I think we're gonna have to just have a second game in that case as well. Burning Fist Minotaur. It is some sort of Minotaur deck, but I'm not seeing any zombies, so I don't know what the point of that is. Very sloppy build here, my friend. Here's finally we get our first 1/1. It's a bit late coming, but no worries. Does Bushy need cooperation? Because he can kind of fuck things up, you know, like by himself. He doesn't really, yeah. In fact, yes, just like that. Okay. Bushido activates, and stuff happens, and unfortunately we don't deal any damage, but of course with first strike and vigilance we remain supreme, and oh my gosh, it's the throne of the god. This is probably like a really interesting deck if you want to sit down and read this and look at like the Amonkhet mechanics you can build around with artifacts and things like this, and like look at this. Like there's a wild stuff you can do here. This is probably a really cool deck. I'm just doing it a great disservice by killing it so quickly, but I got to transform Bushy Tenderfoot. Okay, we did it. I'll see you next game with something more competitive, I hope.